Francis, what are you raising funds for?
I'm raising funds because I have recently had a stroke, a cerebellum stroke, which I thought actually was because of extreme vertigo. But it was diagnosed by a neurologist as a stroke. And what I'm wanting to do now is to really see why I put myself in this situation. I know it's not an accident. I know there is a very specific reason why I chose to go through this experience. And I really, while I'm going through this experience, I'm having to learn to receive totally from other people to help me. And I've discovered that there's amazing resistance. And I've always taught, Lester said one time, that we teach what we need to learn ourselves. And I have always said to people, when what we resist persists. And now I'm giving myself a total, complete opportunity to let go of all of my resistance to any idea, to any person, to any situation, any kind of resistance, because that creates stress. And I'm wanting to be able to say, wait a minute, I had a specific reason for choosing to go through this experience, and I'm going to give myself the opportunity to find out what that is.
Wonderful. Can you tell us more about the work of your book that you would like to spend time doing?
When I met Lester, he told me that I would be a teacher of the teachers, and he started encouraging me to ask him about anything that I didn't understand about what he was doing. And he also taught, this is vital, that the highest teaching is the silent teaching. And I bought that, I really did, because I could feel him checking himself out. If somebody gave him approval, he'd just stop for a moment, he'd look up to the left, and somehow I got this knowingness that he was checking himself out. Was there too much approval? Did he enjoy that approval too much? And when he was in that space, the silent teaching was so powerful, because as he was talking from that space, the power was enormous, and you could feel so lifted and be able to almost see what it was he was seeing. I was aware of that because one time he was talking about getting his realization, and he was a total atheist. He had no belief in God. He thought that God and metaphysics was for the weak-minded. He was a scientist, so he would put everything in a test tube. So when he got a realization, he'd check it out. He did what he called square all with love, which was a nice engineering term, I assume, because I'd never heard that before. And then after his 2 months of isolation in his apartment on Central Park South in New York City, where I had gone after I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in fine art, Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. And while I was at the University of Texas, that was back in the days when the message was, to be a great artist, you had to live. You had to have a message. And the more you could live, and to me that also meant suffering, I believe. I kind of think that's what that was all about. But here I was born at home, 7 miles out of a tiny little town of 2,000 people, before the age of TV, when Texas was so big, you could drive across the state and there were 5 different dialects. was very hard to understand.
So these will all be things that you want to write about, or how are you going to share this?
I'm sharing it because when I met Lester, I did not believe in happiness. I thought there were moments of contentment and satisfaction. And he was talking about ecstasy on top of ecstasy and on top of ecstasy. He said that there was one point in his realization process when he looked way, way, way down below him and he saw what was left of his subconscious mind. And he said, why bother with that puny little thing? And it meant nothing to him because he was so high. Because he used to say, when he was feeling this amazing joy, he said, well, there can't be anything higher than this. But he said, but I'm going to try. So he would go higher and higher and higher and higher. Another time, when he talked about that experience, when he was getting his realization, he said when he looked down below him and he saw what was left of his subconscious mind, he said, if I let this go, I will disappear into light.
Mm-hmm.
So
those are all really exciting stories.
So when he told me this, I thought, geez, what does he mean? I've never met anybody who not only believes in happiness, but who believes there's no top limit to joy. So I started writing down. I'd ask him questions and write down his answers, because I felt that somehow it was my mission to preserve the teaching, to preserve the truth. But Lester said, truth has no author, and he didn't want to put his name on it. But he finally did agree to let me have a tape recorder, and we bought 2 reel-to-reel tape recorders, and I still have some of the original reel-to-reel tapes, Mylar tapes. And so somehow I'd like to complete my mission of making this teaching available and show the difference between the method, which is now called the Sedona method, which is based on his very basic teachings, which he taught in 1959 when I met him, which was that everybody has 3 basic desires, most basic being the desire for survival, and the feeling is for us when we are those helpless infants when we're born. It's so interesting that most animals, when they're born, some of them can open their eyes and look around and get up and walk around, but not us. We're totally, completely dependent on our parents or somebody to take care of us. Because if we're left all alone, we can literally die. And so that feeling is very real. And the second is the need for love and approval. And if we cannot get anybody to notice us and to take care of us, then we've got to do something to make them notice us, to get attention. And that's the desire for control. In the beginning, he called this method, he called it the AC way. First of all, it was called the New Way. Then he called it the AC way. And finally, the Mind Freedom way, which I really love. I still love that name. But he was afraid, at that time, Silva mind control was huge. And he was afraid it would be confusing to people if we called it mind freedom. So he changed it. And it ended up being called the Sedona method. And now that I can see that you cannot be prepared for a stroke, I've been taught by some amazing people who say that most people who have a stroke like this they die immediately. And not only that, but as time goes by, more and more young people will die of these strokes. And there's absolutely no warning. It just hits you, and then you deal with it. So that's why I'm asking for help now, because I would really love to complete my mission and would like for people who have only known Lester since the method to recognize the foundation that method is based on. And it's incredible. So I hope to be able to complete my mission of Lester and I. In 1973, we actually began to work on the second edition. And at that point, he divided it into 3 parts. He said the first part, I hope I can remember all 3 of them. First part is called The Real You, Free and Unlimited. Part 2 is called The Unreal You and the World. And the third part is Methods, Yardsticks for Growth, and Methods to Regain the Real You, Free and Unlimited. And as I said, he did not want, he kept saying truth has no author. And I kept thinking about when I lived in New York City, and there was a metaphysical bookstore down in the 40s, I think on Madison Avenue, called Inspiration House. And there were books there. You'd open the book, on the title page there was a question mark where the author was, and I